Welcome back, friends of Tavern House. Today we're going to talk about my lifelong torrid love affair with foie gras. Yes, I know, it's controversial to some. And I don't remember the first time I ever tasted it. I think it was back during my college summer days when I was working restaurants in New York. And back then, it was a terrine or a torchon of foie gras. Baked in an oven slowly, all the raw duck fat melted together, and then it was chilled and served with toast points. And when I opened my first restaurant in Corona del Mar, Pave, back in the very early 80s, I started making my own terrine of foie gras. It was really a challenge to do, but it was so delicious. And back then, they weren't doing what's popular nowadays, which is a slice of raw foie gras, quickly pan-seared. When I opened French 75, we had two dishes that I loved. One was the three-way duck, which was confit leg and thigh style, and then a grilled rare breast, and then it was topped with a slice of the seared foie gras. And we also had an appetizer every night of seared foie gras that changed depending on the mood of the chefs. We used to do a peanut butter and jam. We did it on cornmeal pancakes. But my favorite one is the one we're gonna do tonight. It's on French toast with a maple syrup gastrique, prosciutto crisps, and garnished with some fresh raspberries. So the thing you have to understand about foie gras is that it's really fatty, and it needs to be highly seasoned. And you can do the French toast ahead of time and just keep it in a warm oven, but I'll start and I'll show you the technique. The other beautiful thing about this dish is that you can do it really quickly. It can be done start to finish in a minute. So we will start with that now. So as a little more background, I loved foie gras so much, and I used to always buy it from a company in up New York State called Hudson Valley Foie Gras. They have every iteration of foie gras available. But then about a year ago, I used to order it online, and when I plugged in my address, they said that they weren't allowed to ship it to my zip code. And at the time, California had outlawed even the importation of foie gras. And then a couple months ago, I, just for the hell of it, went online to see if I could get some more, and lo and behold, they shipped me some. And I always used to keep these little IQF, they're individually quick frozen lobes of foie gras in the freezer. So at a moment's notice, I could take them out and prepare them, and they were great for dinner parties. So anyway, the good news is they're now readily available. You can't sell it in the state of California, but you can import it in. So I have two lobes here of the individually wrapped, and what you need to do is you start by just doing a little cross-cut pattern on each side. And what this does, when you pan-sear it, it allows the heat to penetrate to the middle of the foie gras. You're only going to sear it for about 20 or 30 seconds on each side. You want the inside will end up being barely warm, but creamy, super tender. So again, you want to liberally salt and pepper this, because again, there's just so much fat content in it. So as you can see, it's quite a bit, but some of it will dissipate in the pan. Okay, so we're ready to go. You'll want to have your, what I like to do is have the French toast done ahead of time. Keep it in a warming oven, or you can blast it really quickly, because once you start this, everything else has to be ready to go. So here we go in the hot pan.
We're going to talk about the French toast a little bit.
The French toast, of course. Okay, so you can use your own favorite batter, but I do a little whipped egg, milk, cinnamon, and vanilla. And it's best to do, my favorite, you can use any bread, but my favorite is a brioche of some kind. And so you just dredge it in that like you're normally making French toast. Cook it in your pan ahead of time, and then just keep it in a warming oven, or it can even be at room temperature. And I want to explain that the idea behind serving foie gras is that it's typically done with what's known as a gastrique, which means it comes with a vinegar or an acid component, and also sweet. Like traditional roast duck, foie gras needs those two things because it's so rich in on its own that you need to have a little acid to cut the fat and a little sweetness to balance everything out. So here we go. What I want to do is to get the pan really good and hot. It doesn't have to be a non-stick pan because there's so much fat in this that nothing would ever stick. The one thing you have to be careful about though is making sure that you don't overcook it, because you'll end up just having a bunch of melted duck fat in the pan. We don't want that. Okay, so I think we're pretty good here. And also it's going to smoke a little bit, so you should probably turn your kitchen fan on. Which I will do on low. But you can see immediately it starts to sear and release the fat content in it. And it's about 30 seconds per side. What you want to do is get a nice char brown on the outside, but make sure that it still stays rare on the inside. You want it just barely heated throughout. And you should be allowed to peek a little more brown. My favorite saute pan is the black steel pans. They heat up faster than any other pan. Almost there. And you see the other cool thing about that cross-hatching, the scoring of that, is that it looks cool. It looks cool. So we want to have some of this fat rendered out because that's going to be part of our sauce. We're going to add some shallots to that. We're going to add our acid, a little balsamic vinegar, and then we're going to finish it off with Vermont maple syrup. Again, this is a very small portion, but it packs a wallet. Okay, now we're going to move over and plate it up. Okay, so after you pan sear the foie gras, you want to plate it on top of your French toast. And then you're going to make a quick pan sauce, or gastrique. Put a little bit of the shallots in here. Just for about 10 seconds, they become fragrant. And then a touch with the balsamic vinegar.
Ooh, yes. Okay.
And then the main ingredient, maple syrup. And it happens just that quickly. And now we'll go over and we'll nap the top of the foie gras with this. So you get the shallots, add a little bit of kind of a salty onion sense to it that works against the flavors of the balsamic and the maple syrup. And then you can garnish it with chives or a little something green, like mint in this case. And there we go.
Don't forget the best
The final
part.
touch, because this is kind of a breakfast dish, is prosciutto crisps. Again, I like to do sweet and salty. And I'll give you the recipe for how to make these. Super, super simple, but it really makes it, it's like, you know, you gotta have salty and sweet together. So this is it. This is my favorite preparation for foie gras. Traditionally, it's served with either a Riesling or a Sauterne or even a late harvest Riesling, which is what we're doing today. We're just serving with a California Riesling. But this is it. This is pure heaven.
Buon appetito.
Buon appetito.